Welcome to Theory of Pets. I'm a passionate pet owner with a drive to help others like me uncover the truth about the pet industry and what goes on behind the scenes.
All right. Thank you for joining us today, Julie. Julie is the owner of the recently rebranded company Puppington. It was originally Pup Wax. And she is on here today to tell us more about dog skincare and about her original product to start off, as far as how she got that started, why she decided to create that for certain seasons. Pup Wax is a balm and moisturizer for dogs' paws, and correct me if I'm wrong, for their nose as well, correct?
Yes, thank you for having me, Connor. Great to be here. Yes, so for their noses, paws, skin, itchy areas, any irritations.
And then she's also recently come out with a couple other product lines as well for immunity and what else? It's immunity and
calming traits.
Yes, calming traits. Health. Correct. Yes. Yep. So thank you for thank you for joining me today. So I'm excited for this conversation because it's really hot here in South Florida. So I'm interested as far as what skincare I need to be doing for this humid and very hot climate.
I'm definitely excited to be here. Just came back from Florida, so I absolutely understand where you're coming from.
Awesome. Well, so let's start off with my first question. I ask all our podcast guests this, but I always get a different answer and I'm always intrigued. So let's say Julie Napolitano is 10 years old.
Yes.
I'm friends with Julie Napolitano. I'm 10 years old as well. What is my friend Julie Napolitano at 10 years old like? And was there anything at that age that really showed an inkling of what you're currently doing today?
Yeah, so I love that question. I think that's really fun. So me as a 10-year-old, I was not allowed to have a dog because we traveled too much. My parents felt it was too much work, couldn't afford it. So I was looking for any and every dog that I could find. If friends had dogs, I was all over that dog. If I saw a dog outside, just absolutely always wanted a dog. Told my parents, when I turn 18, I'm moving out and I'm getting my own dog. So that was just kind of always, I loved animals, but especially dogs was what I was really excited about. And then also I was just outside all the time. So I grew up in Alabama and then Oklahoma and, especially in the summers, just always outside and always playing with dogs.
That's awesome. As far as outdoors and were you for me, when I was a kid, when I lived in Jacksonville, we constantly would be outside and play manhunt and stuff like that. Were you living in a more of a suburban or more rural area in Alabama?
So mostly college towns. So we lived in Auburn and we lived in Stillwater. But a lot of my friends were in more rural areas. So they might have a cow or calves at home. So a lot of that playing was outside with roly-polies or with caterpillars or whatever critters we would find back then. And then we moved to New York when I was in high school. And the games kids were playing were a little bit different and a little bit less rural for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So exactly when or what got you interested in starting to form your very first company, Pup Wax, and now recently rebranded into Puppington. What was the start of that?
Sure. So a few years back, we were fostering dogs at the time. We had 2 young boys and felt that, fostering is a way that we could introduce dogs into our home with sort of a shorter term commitment. And at the same time, just getting more dogs out of shelters while they're waiting for their permanent homes. So one of those dogs that we had, Tuxedo, he had very dry paws. And I thought, let me just go buy something for him. And I check the labels before I buy anything, whether it's shampoo or skincare or foods. I'm always checking the ingredients. And there just wasn't anything in the stores or even on Amazon where I felt like this is a product where I'm comfortable with the ingredients. And I felt like there's an opportunity to create something better. So that's what I set out to do. So I started by researching just really at the ingredient level. So I got access through my alma mater, through my college, to the actual like clinical journals. And I was researching to death at night. I still had my corporate job at the time. So daytime was my corporate job. Nighttime was researching and starting to tinker in the kitchen. And finally, I felt like I had come up with a short list of ingredients that would really, really be ideal for a dog's skin and for healing dog skin issues. So that was kind of the genesis of Pup Wax. I launched Black Friday 2019.
Wow.
So originally the idea was a solution for dog paws. And I thought, here's something great for, dogs that can relate, that have issues with their paws, and didn't even appreciate at the time how many dogs are also suffering with dry nose issues, especially those with like the flat face breeds like pugs and bulldogs. So as I got more immersed in just the whole business, I really started to learn like, wow, there's a lot of need. And the products that are available, or that were available at the time, just really weren't created and formulated with like what's optimal for a dog in mind. So kind of the same evolution that we've seen in human skincare, a lot of empty fillers and just junky, cheap ingredients. So that's how Pup Wax was born.
That's so interesting. There's like you said, brachycephalic dogs are more prone to dry noses. Is that why do you think that is? I did not know that.
So they typically are not able to get their tongues around as well to naturally moisten them. And as well as just the structure of the nose, it typically dries out more. So the, I guess we'd call the more traditional nose is typically just a more moist environment.
Yeah, got it. Okay, that makes sense. And I think you already kind of touched on it as far as how you came up with the creation. What studies were you seeing as far as the ingredients you chose? If anyone wants to check out the ingredients, it's on her website on the back of the product. But what studies were you like researching to where you came up? Okay, it's gonna have this and this, and like how did you figure out where the two different ingredients weren't going to, neutralize the other, and to where they're actually all working together?
Right. Great question. So I was coming at this really for the first time. So I was reading everything and anything I could. So I had kind of two lists going, like ingredients that I was seeing really positive things written about, and then ingredients that I wanted to stay away from. So for example, petroleum derived ingredients like mineral oils and petroleum jelly, things like that. Comfrey, wintergreen oils, tea tree oils. So there was like a list that I was forming that I wanted to stay away from. And then, a lot of the ingredients that we've chosen to go with, everything that is just deeply moisturizing, that's rich in antioxidants, that's not petroleum derived. So a lot of just really oils and fats, and butters like the shea butter, hemp seed oil, coconut oil, like a lot of these ingredients that we hear about on the human side as well. Really needed to make sure that there was no research indicating that there was anything harmful, or that there can be any side effects. And for example, what's safe for cats is not, or what's safe for dogs is not safe for cats, and vice versa. So really needing to make sure that, as best as I could find, I wouldn't be able to uncover anything that contraindicated that this could be a great ingredient for a dog product.
Interesting. Yeah. The only one I do know, I figure shea butter, because we have shea butter in our shampoos and in our lotions and stuff like that. But coconut oil, we actually have I have another YouTuber that I work with for the Top Dog Tips YouTube channel. Her name's Samantha, and one of the moisturizing, or almost, it's also antibacterial. It's coconut oil. She puts it on her dog's skin, either topically, or she puts it in their food a little bit,
right?
As well. And I think is there apple cider vinegar in Pup Wax, or no? No,
there's not.
That's the treats, the pup snacks.
Yes.
Correct.
So there's no apple cider vinegar in the Pup Wax line.
That would do the opposite. That's not what we want. That's more.
It would be a little more challenging for the formulation. So it has antifungal properties and it's really good for you, but would just be a little bit more challenging.
Yeah, got it. Okay. And what challenges did you come across when trying to come up with better ingredients for balms and moisturizers, whether that's finding better ingredients or just having a difficult time sourcing it? Because I see that all your ingredients are very they're ingredients that I clearly can understand. And
Right.
I know certain manufacturers, they just aren't willing to, they're not willing to source some of these higher end, higher quality ingredients. So tell me what challenges you face when you're trying to formulate pup wax.
I would say that the biggest challenge, especially that I was doing this for the first time, was really the pricing. You know, the finding clean label ingredients is not necessarily valued as much, you know, when it comes to skincare for dogs as it is on the human side. And even for us people, like there's still a lot of education to be done. So it's kind of a decision I had to make early on. Am I committed to producing this kind of product? Is this what I want to put out there? Or do I want to compete based on price? And I said, you know, I can't compete based on price because, you know, you really get sticker shock when you see the pricing for these organic raw inputs, but it is what it is. And I said, you know, regardless of how big or small this gets, I'm committed to creating the best possible products that I can. And, you know, that's going to mean not competing on price. So that was probably the biggest challenge, just accepting, you know, it can double or triple your costs when you're not sourcing organically, or, you know, you're not using empty fillers. For example, a competitor refers to, and you're also competing on the marketing side. So for example, there's a product out there, they say that they're using food grade white oils. That's code for mineral oil, which means it's code for something that's petroleum derived. But people see that and they're like, it's a food grade white oil. This sounds great for my dog. It doesn't have any of those benefits that coconut oil has that you were talking about, for example. So, you know, it's not just the pricing then, it's accepting that even on the marketing side, you're up against competitors that are making claims, you know, that they're able to kind of finagle by keeping their costs down, but it's not the same product. It's, you know, it's quite different.
Yeah, that's interesting. You bring that up. That's funny. White oil. I think like people will go white. White means good. So
and pure, right?
Pure. Yeah, exactly. So white pure equals good for my dog. That's it's so interesting. So I actually recently went through some dog food nutrition training. I'm actually I'm not a pet nutritionist. I went through this training designed by Meg Smart and a bunch of other veterinarians. They basically teach you the exact same thing on the pet food labels, is where they use the words like all natural. And then if you turn to the label, you know exactly what it looks like when it's synthetic vitamins or synthetic antioxidants, but they're allowed to say all natural ingredients because, you know, but because they added in the antioxidants, because they added in the vitamins, you know, even though they're vitamins that were made in a lab. Yeah. So it's it's unfortunate that these companies, man, they'll do whatever they can to cut corners and not really give you the whole truth.
Right. There's just not that much regulation still, you know, for a lot of these products. And then the certifications cost a lot of money. So for example, for the pup wax, I couldn't afford the certification that you need to have the USDA organic sticker on the front, but every single ingredient, you know, I'm able to correctly state, you know, it's organic coconut oil, it's organic hemp seed oil. So if you actually, you know, if a consumer is reading the label, they'll see all of the ingredients are organic. But again, you know, then I'm still having to compete against those that have the budget to get it right on the front of the little seal
right there.
You know, which,
yeah, that's you brought up a good point. I'll circle back on that later. So let's see. What time? Let's say since I'm here in South Florida in the summer, and right now it's actually pretty humid, but I'm sure there's maybe some senior dogs or, like you said, brachycephalic dogs that may get dry noses. And maybe there's other times of the year that are better times to get, you know, your moisturizer, your balms, or the pup wax. What times of year would you recommend consumers, I guess, when would be the best time to stock up on these types of these products for their dog?
That's a great question. I would say, to keep it simple, probably any time that you're noticing that your own skin is drying out, you might want to, that's probably one time that you might want to pay more attention and think, okay, is my dog suffering too? So whether it's winter and your skin is drying out, or it's summer and there's more air conditioning, or it's the spring and there's more allergens in the air. A lot of dogs actually have environmental allergies as well. So some dogs suffer from grass allergies. So I've got one customer who has to wash her dog's feet after every walk because of the grass. The dog just really can't handle any exposure. So, knowing your own dog is probably most important. I would also say anytime you're traveling, you probably are better off just bringing your own really healthy products that you know and trust, rather than trying to find something, last minute, because a lot of times you're just not able to find those same products when you're on the road.
Wow. Okay. And so basically, I mean, and I forgot about this, but it makes a lot of sense. So I could basically get my dog, Belle, she could get dry skin. Let's say she has an environmental allergy, because right now it's not really dry air because it's, hot and super humid down in South Florida. So environmental allergies or maybe even food allergies can cause dry, itchy skin. And then, that would be also, something that would be great to have on handy is pup wax, because even though it's summer and humid, it can still happen.
Right. And it's actually not just allergies. It's also just irritation from any sort of irritants. So those can be pesticides in the lawns that are being treated. If it's not your own lawn, just walking through the neighborhood or through, the town, what they're using is often not so friendly. If it's a colder area, a lot of towns are usually not using the dog-friendly ice melt products. Yeah. So you end up having a lot of toxins. And then even in the homes, a lot of the carpets as well as couches have these fire retardant coatings that end up being really irritating to dogs' paws. So there are, we don't think about it because a lot of times, I think we think, oh, dogs have thick paws, and we're not necessarily thinking about all the things that they're exposed to throughout the day, but they're not wearing socks. Usually they're not wearing shoes as much. So it's, pup wax or a great protectant like that is also just really key for keeping your dog protected, not just from allergens, but from any of those irritants and toxins that we're living with every day.
Got it. Okay. And how often should it be where pet owners are applying balms and moisturizers to their nose or their paws or their skin, even if, let's say, these environmental issues aren't really causing any itchy skin? Would you say like on a regular basis, like every couple of days or every day or like once a week? What would you recommend?
I would say, typically a couple of times a day. I personally like to do it before walks. And then while we're out walking, my pups, I have two rescue dogs right now. They're both two. They're very high energy. So usually I apply it and then we go outside because that distracts them, lets it absorb in a little bit better. Usually dogs are going to lick off some of it. That was another thing that was really important for me, was to know that anything they lick, any amount, it's just going to be really safe. But yeah, to answer your question, a couple of times a day, on average. I think some dogs probably can go a lot longer in between or don't necessarily need it unless they're going to be exposed to something. Others, if you can see the dryness in their nose, I would apply 3-4 times a day. And within 5 to 7 days, you should see a huge difference. And that's when, I'd say you can start really lessening how much you're applying it.
You said you put the pup wax on them before the walks. Is this on their nose, only on their nose, or where else is this?
So mine are usually getting it on their paws.
Okay. And how comes during the summer? I'm just curious if does it protect for the hot like pavement or what?
Great question. So I just want to point out, if it's too hot, dogs should not be getting walked in the middle of the day on pavement. They should stay on grass. So where we are, it definitely tends to get pretty hot in the summer. But no, most of my neighbors where I live are using pesticides on their lawns. So you see those trucks with the big sprayers coming through. So as we're walking along the edge of everybody's house, they're going through lawn after lawn after lawn, not the lawns, but the edge near the street. So I just feel better knowing that there's that protective coating to kind of keep them a little bit safer from all of that. We don't use pesticides at our home, but as soon as I know that I'm out walking, they're just exposing them to whatever's out there.
I didn't even think about that. As far as that, it would basically create an extra coating over the paws and over their nose, or whether it be their skin. That's really cool. I mean, I know you said it for when the dog has dry, itchy skin, but as a preventative, I didn't really think about that. That's really good stuff.
Right. Because we're just living with so many toxins nowadays. And, everybody wants that nice, pristine lawn without the weeds, but that comes at a price to our health. So,
okay. And then what do you see what is the biggest reason you see your customers buy pup wax? Is there like one specific reason, or is it just kind of all over the map as far as what we just went through?
Yeah, the most common reason is actually for dry noses. So I was very surprised, as the business started to grow and I started to learn more of what everyone was looking for. But dry noses are actually even a more common issue that a lot of dogs are suffering from than the paw issues. And, part of me wonders, is it just because those are more obvious to the dog parent? Like if your dog's nose is dry, you can see it. If they've got paws, that are cracking or dry, I think there's also just a little less education on what a healthy paw looks like, because they are they're thicker. So, I think it goes both ways.
Now, outside of the brachycephalic dogs, do you see any other breeds that are more prone to dry noses besides like Frenchies or Bulldogs, besides those brachycephalic ones?
Yep. So when their noses get really, really dry and cracked, a lot of times it's hyperkeratosis, which is like an overgrowth of the protein.
Yep.
And any breed can get that. I would say that I can't really think of any that are especially prone to it other than the brachycephalic breeds. But, any dog can end up with the hyperkeratosis. And once it starts, it gets really irritated and painful.
I've researched hyperkeratosis. It's just something you just have to manage. I don't think it ever goes. Once they have it, it doesn't go away. You just manage it pretty much for the rest of life. Right?
I've heard from a lot of dog parents that it's completely gone away. So typically after those first few days, the really crusty parts start to fall off, and then it's replaced with healthy skin. And we've heard from a lot of dog parents that it's just pretty much resolved.
Okay. Well, that's great. That's awesome. I don't know why, maybe I was reading something else. Maybe I was totally off base here, but I thought, anyways,
or maybe they weren't using pup wax.
yeah, exactly. The thing is the remedy, like they did say to treat and manage hyperkeratosis, just to make sure it doesn't come back to the level that it does, is you have to consistently just manage it with balm and moisturizer. So I thought that was just basically what it was. Is just it's not coming back because they're constantly applying it because they're right. That's what I thought.
I'm sharing anecdotally what dog parents have shared with me. So, I haven't been there to see, maybe it's because they've continued to apply, but I know that, that my first year of business, you asked about one of the challenges that I had. Another one was that the dog parents would be so thrilled with the product, it was working well, they wouldn't buy again. And if no one's buying your product again because it worked so well, then that's great, but it's also not sustainable.
Yep.
That was one of the reasons I needed to see what other areas I can branch out to, and what other ways I can help dogs.
It's always, I guess that's what do they call it? A good problem to have when you do too good of a job.
Right.
Okay. So I myself am a business owner as well. So I feel like every business owner goes through adversity. I mean, there's no perfect trajectory. There's no perfect business. There's no perfect market, no perfect niche. So what would you say is the biggest challenge outside of trying to come up with your mixture or your ingredients when you first created it? What would you say the biggest challenge was in growing your business that you had to overcome, but it made you yourself better and more equipped to be the one to steer the ship of Pup Wax and now Puppington?
That's a great question, because I can come up with so many challenges. One of the early ones that I faced was just really, doing this for the first time, the marketing, the packaging. So I chose amber glass jars for the packaging. The amber helps protect the product from degrading, from UV and everything. And, but it's also very heavy to ship. So now I've got a product with very high quality, expensive organic ingredients, and I've chosen pretty much the heaviest possible shipping, packaging, and that can have breakage issues if it's not properly packed. So I would say that. And then also just the marketing in general. So my background was corporate and in finance. I didn't have a retail background. So really just learning how to tell my story and the story of Pup Wax and now Puppington in a way that helps dog parents understand what these products can do for their dogs. So initially I was very focused on, I could talk your ear off about the ingredients because that's what I was so excited about. I felt that I had discovered and created these great formulas. But when you're just talking about ingredients, that's not resonating with dog parents. They want to understand, well, what's it actually going to do for my dog and how and why? And now I understand, how to connect the dots, but initially not having a marketing background, that was probably my biggest challenge. So I'm a huge believer in transparency. I feel like if you're buying something, a company needs to be willing to share with you what's in the product, why they made those decisions. So I had this page on my first website on pupwax.com, all about the ingredients. And then probably a year later, as I was really learning how to look at the website analytics, I saw no one is reading that. So I called it the secret sauce. And I thought, this is great. I'm putting it all out there. I'm not holding anything back. I'm sharing everything about the ingredients. And I discovered no one's clicking there. No one's reading about the ingredients. So just learning, if that's an important part of the story, then I need to make sure that I'm telling that and I'm finding ways to share that information up front to help dog parents make better decisions.
So that way, I was just going to say, so I think that what you're about to say is the next thing you had to learn was a little bit of copywriting, as far as being able to like transform that ingredients and why you should care. At least that's what I have had to learn here recently. But before I go to the next question, I researched you a little bit. I saw you worked for Lehman Brothers because you keep referring to your corporate job. How long did you work for them?
Lehman, I was there for about a year, so not too long. So that was right out of business school. Before or during even launching Pup Wax, I was with a company called Bungie. They're
that one
commodity
too.
Company. So the largest soybean crusher in the world and processor in the world. So making soybean oils and meals and so forth. And I wore a variety of different hats there, mostly on the finance side. So from treasury to commodity option trading and so forth. So everything in the retail and marketing and consumer space is completely new for me.
So that's actually that's a good little point there that I want to touch on, just because. So you worked for the largest soybean oil crusher, but then you also, when you, like it, how did that turn from that into where you, working for them, motivated you to make really like high quality ingredients? Because that's just and then also which role would you say that when you worked for, you said Bungie?
Yep.
Which role would you say best prepared you for, or what was the biggest lesson you learned from Bungie that you would say that brought you into this new entrepreneurial space where it's given you the skill set to be able to thrive and pursue or persevere?
Great question. So probably more than any one role, it was really the people that I worked with. So I worked with a lot of amazing teams in my time there. One person specifically who was just a really strong mentor to me, learning from some of those people and just seeing how they lead, how they influence their teams. I would say that probably shaped the way that I run my business now more than any functional aspect of being there.
That's really cool. I'm a big proponent of learning how to manage people better. I'm a big fan. Do you know who Jocko Willink is?
Marketing. Right?
No, so Jocko Willink actually was a Navy SEAL, but he's written a couple books on all about leadership and how to basically run a team and be able to lead a chain of command. So I think that's really, really cool.
I haven't read that one, unfortunately.
Oh, it's an awesome book. You would, I mean, if you read it, you'd be like, yep, I remember this is exactly what I learned at Bungie. Okay. Next question. So as someone who I've had a little bit of experience as far as sourcing for e-commerce. What was your experience sourcing all of these organic ingredients?
It's pricey.
Yeah.
As much as possible, I tried to go directly to the source. So, for example, the shea butter is coming directly from a co-op in Ghana. Otherwise, you've got like 10 middlemen that are happy to each take a cut and possibly also, inject something into the product to make it a little bit less refined. So, I really focused on getting the product or the ingredients and as much of their raw form as possible. And when you're doing that, typically the best way is just go directly to the source, because if you don't have preservatives in the product, they're also not going to last through 10 more iterations in the supply chain.
Got it. Okay. Great information. Last question. What is the biggest lesson that your dogs have taught you?
Oh my gosh.
Or what 7 or what 1,000 lessons?
Sorry, well, the first one that comes to mind is no fence is high enough.
Yeah.
So I have one escape artist. We actually had a 5-foot fence built around our yard, which then backs up onto like more than an acre of property. So that acre back there is what's tempting to her. There's deer, there's foxes, there's everything else. So there's no fence high enough, no matter what the fence company says. But no, to be more practical, I would say, there's that old saying, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. And I think that's 100% not true. It takes a lot of training and consistency and time and dedication, really consistency, time, patience, love. But you can, dogs are capable of just amazing things. If you have a good relationship with them, they're capable of pretty much anything.
That's so relatable right now. My girlfriend just moved in with me, and she has a 17-year-old dachshund, and so he's had quite a bit of issues, but I think sometimes the older they get, sometimes they can get more irritable, and that's been a learning experience for me. So I've had to, I have a 2-year-old puppy. Her name's Belle. She wants nothing to do with him. She's like, oh, he's like an angry old man. I don't, but so I've had to, exactly what you said, it's patience. And I've had to relearn how to train a dog, because I've had to train him completely differently of how, like, compared to how I've had to train my puppy.
Right.
So that's so relatable. That was, I totally agree.
They have such different personalities. Mine are roughly the same age, but polar opposites in personality.
It's like the same thing. I mean, I personally don't have kids, but people, how people say, like, you can have 2 people live in the same house, grow up in the same house, and just be 2 total, like you said, polar opposites. One can be like more laid back. The other one could be like super rigid, like a little more OCD. Anyways, but yeah.
Right.
Yep. Awesome. Well, I really enjoyed this conversation. Why don't you share with our listeners and our viewers where everyone can find you and your newly branded company, Puppington?
Thank you. Yes, so Puppington is on our website at puppington.co. We are also, most of our social media handles, so Instagram, TikTok, it's all puppington.co. And our products are also available at boxed.com and at dogly.com. And we're currently in the process of expanding to other retailers as well.
And then do you have any social handles as far as like Instagram?
Yep.
What's your Instagram handle for
so it's puppington.co.
Okay.
And that makes it easy to remember the website. So this is our treat product here. These are the Daily Immune Plus treats with probiotics. And yep, so that's puppington.co is the website. It's also puppington.com now, redirects to puppington.co if anyone forgets.
Oh, perfect.
Because .co is kind of a new domain.
Nice. You got that domain too. Good job.
It took me more than a year to get the .com, but I've got it now. So.
Yes, I know I know what you mean. Because
Yep.
trying to get those domains that are kind of related, or like just like one letter off, and then this other person's like, I want it for this much. Yeah.
Right. And then so unfortunately, when I was relaunching, I was not able to get the .com yet. So I built everything on the .co.
Okay.
And now to retrain Google's algorithms for the .com would be a whole other lift. So
well,
find us at .co.
Props to you, because my dad and I, when we first started, we overly obsessed over whether it's .co, .com, .org. I mean, you kind of you want to like have some form of like normalcy, but it's not like that big of a deal as much as you anticipated.
Right.
I mean, you've built a company off of .co versus .com, and I bet like when at first you're like, I mean, unless you're the kind of person's like, I don't care, I'm just going to continue to go forward.
No, it was a tough decision, and I wasn't thrilled. I really wanted the .com, but then I also discovered the social media handles were generally not available for Puppington. So the way around that was to take puppington.co, and that kind of helps with that brand awareness and reinforcement that everyone can just remember puppington.co.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for joining me today, Julie. I learned a lot.
Thank you.
And everyone, I hope you have a great rest of your day, and we'll talk to you soon.